Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay. Titania.
All right. It's Titania Jordan.
Hi everybody, welcome to Connect. Today, we are graced with the presence of Ikonne, Senior Director of Software Engineering at Cox Automotive.
That's right.
Ah, cue the claps, cue the excitement. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
I'm kind of a ham, but I think you can roll with it, right? So how long have you been at Cox Automotive?
I've been at Cox Automotive for a little over 3 years now.
Okay. Very cool, wonderful organization.
Yes.
And let's talk about your role.
Okay.
What does it mean to be the Senior Director of Software Engineering at such a massive corporation?
Yeah, well, all I'm really challenged with doing is making sure that our teams can actually deliver software. We're in the automotive industry and it's important that we deliver solutions, software solutions that enable our business. And so what I do with a bunch of other colleagues and peers who share the same responsibilities, support our teams, give them all they need, to develop good software.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that support, because you are passionate about servant leadership, giving back, and so how do you support your teams?
That's a really good question. It's something I like to talk about, so I'm glad you asked me that question. So support, or how do you serve your team? For me, it starts off with getting to know everybody on your team, getting to know individuals and having a connection with each and every person, right? Understanding what motivates them, what drives them, what they're passionate about, and working to find a way that you can connect their passion, their vision, with the overall vision of the organization, in our case, Cox Automotive. The people I work with are intelligent. Many of them are better at doing what they do than I could ever do it at this point, right? These are skilled software engineers, skilled testers, skilled business analysts, skilled scrum masters. And so what they really need from me is the support, and they need me to be there and give them what they need to do their job. So it's up to me to find those things that they need and make sure they have them.
What are some of the things they need?
So what are the things they need? Well, an example of a very simple thing someone could need would be a good computer, right? That's an example.
I know that's right.
Right, of a very simple thing someone could need. But beyond that, they need direction, right? They need to understand what's the problem we're trying to solve, and they need constraints, and I like to call them enabling constraints. They need to understand this is how this solves a problem for our customers, and this is when we need it by. They need those pieces of information that will guide them on doing their job. They also need for me to ensure that they have the right career development, the right training to move along their career. So those are examples of things they need from me and my peers on a day-to-day basis. They need coaching, they need mentoring, they need me to recognize them when they do a good job. They need me to help actually coach the team as a whole, right? And create the little culture we want in our teams moving forward,
And how do you identify, because every human is so different, their needs are different, their personalities, their skill sets, their strengths. So what sort of systems or processes do you use to identify what makes each person different and how to best communicate with them?
So I'm a big believer in face-to-face, right? You might know that I'm big in the agile movement. I like things about agile, and one of the things it talks about is face-to-face interaction. And I don't believe that there's really a good substitute for that. I know we have a lot of collaboration tools right now that people use.
Slack.
Exactly.
And,
Slack and Skype and HipChat. But I think it's really important to get to know people on an individual basis, whether it's going out for lunch, hanging out in a team type of atmosphere, asking people what they did over the weekend, or when they went on vacation, what did they do and what did they enjoy. That's how you get to know your folks as a leader, right? And that's what I try to do when I talk with my team members, to try to really get to know them.
Oh, I'm sure it's much appreciated. You touched on two things that I would love for you to go into more detail about. first thing you said this cool word called Scrum Master. And I know a lot of people out there watching are like, yeah, I know what that is. But there's a lot of people out there that are like, what? What is that?
Yeah.
So talk about what is Scrum? What is a Scrum Master? Like, go into all of that.
Yeah, we could talk about that for a while. But
well, let's not do that.
yeah, we could. But Scrum, in a nutshell, is an agile framework.
I'm in a nutshell.
Yes.
How did I get in this nutshell? You've seen Austin Powers, right?
I have seen Austin
thank
Powers.
God.
It's been a minute, but I have seen Austin Powers.
Yeah, that anytime somebody says the word nutshell, I'm like, going back to that movie.
You go back to that
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, so in a nutshell, it's a framework that supports agile software development. And it has a couple of roles, but one of the roles it calls out is the Scrum Master. And this is an individual who has a primary responsibility of helping the team work in a way that's consistent with agile principles and values. And that's essentially what they do. Specifically, you know, they coach the team on how to work well. They help the team remove impediments that might be getting in their way. There are other groups of people they interact with as well to make sure that things move smoothly. So that's largely what the role does. Because it's in a nutshell, we don't have all day.
Yep, that's a good starting point. Does Scrum stand for something?
No, it doesn't, actually.
So it's just a word.
It's just taken from Scrum in rugby. So same kind of thing. You know that, exactly. So it's the same kind of concept, people working together, moving something down the line. Doesn't stand for anything. It's not an acronym.
Okay.
So, you know, pet peeve of mine is a lot of people still spell it capital S, capital C, capital R, capital U, capital N. It's capital S, C-R-U-M, yes.
So get it straight, people, not an acronym.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was an acronym. So I'm glad to be corrected here on live YouTube video.
Yeah.
You can't know everything all the time.
No.
Now let's talk about Agile. I want to talk about, again, in a nutshell, what is Agile? And then go a little bit deeper into what are the principles of Agile?
Sure. So what is Agile? For me, my Cliff Notes version.
Yes, much appreciated.
My Cliff Notes version is simply that Agile is working in a way where people deliver value to their customers, whoever that might be, and they also find meaning and joy while doing it. So it's a holistic way of working where everybody comes out of it really happy for you know how things have turned out. You know, it's supported by 4 values and 12 principles. You know, the values talk about favoring individuals and interactions over processes and tools, you know, responding to change over following a plan and things like that. And the principles, the 12 principles, and they're actually touch some very interesting parts of people working together and getting stuff done. There's a focus on learning as you go. There's also a focus on working at a sustainable pace. So it's important to deliver good software as an example, but we don't want people working 80 hours a week.
And they do sometimes.
They do. A lot of sometimes you have to put in that time, but sustainable pace means that's not what it is all the time. There's a strong focus on delivering value often. Back in the day, at least when I started my career, you know, we went for long stretches of time without actually delivering software that people could use. That was just the way we worked. We thought it was the only way we could work. And this now says, hey, let's look for opportunities to provide people with value as we progress. There's a principle that really stands out to me because we don't talk about it a lot, but it's a principle that says, build motivated teams, give them everything they need, and then trust them to get the job done. And again, that kind of ties back to what I consider my role to be. I consider my role to be really getting involved in forming these teams, giving them what they need, whether it's emotional, social, physical, and then trusting them to get the job done.
It's awesome. And it seems like Agile theory can be applied to more than technology and software development.
Oh, I would think so, yes. I mean, who doesn't want the things I mentioned? Who really doesn't want to work in that kind of environment? So, you know, what I tell people all the time is that there are very few things that are new from an Agile perspective. A lot of these things are things people have been talking about for a long time, for decades, right? What Agile just did is it kind of packaged it and said, hey, for software development, we'd like these values and principles to guide us, but you can take a lot of those things and apply them to any, aspect of your life, any field, any domain.
Now, do you put out any thought leadership pieces, blogging, writing, if people want to kind of learn more about this, about leadership, about your personal journey?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it'll be thought leadership, but I do write a little bit. I'm on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I write a little bit there. I have a blog.
Okay.
It's ikonne@wordpress.com. That's my blog. And I'm on Twitter. I'm on social media. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. So you can find me there as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. I think a lot of people are going to be inspired by you, your journey, your viewpoints, and they're going to want to stay in touch and learn from you. Let's switch back to servant leadership and just leadership in general. Who are some people that, when you were first getting started, poured into you and helped you determine what kind of leader you wanted to be?
I've been very privileged in my career. I've actually taken some time recently to reflect on this, right? And every senior leader that I've had, or even peers that I've worked with, have been very influential in shaping my vision of leadership. Because when you start your career, candidly, you don't have much of a perspective on leadership. You just show up and want to work. But my very first boss, Sam Adio, really, I would say I learned leadership from him. I learned how good leaders lead. He was there for us from the onset, was there to support us. I don't even remember him really getting upset, ever. Maybe one time, he got upset. He was a good leader. And that was when I worked for Manhattan Associates a few years ago. And every leader since then, Sanjay Shah, PRGX, was another great leader who gave me a ton of autonomy, empowerment, and let me lead my teams. And then I've worked for Michael Noel at Cox Automotive and David Brooks at Cox Automotive as well. And they've all just allowed me to be a leader, and they've served and given me the support. So I've learned from all these folks along the way.
That's great. That's really awesome you've had that firsthand experience, and it's invaluable. Before we close, I wonder if there's anything that you kind of want to just drop into the internet atmosphere, any sort of tips, tidbits, takeaways, and on top of that, because the internet is so cool, like you can just put something out there and you never know how it'll come back to you in a positive way.
Right.
If you want to take this opportunity to let us know, is there anything that you're working on that we can help you, support you with, anything that we can do for you?
Yeah.
Let us know. We're a captive audience.
Well, thanks for this opportunity again. I've really enjoyed sharing a bit of what I have today.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'll say. We live in a society right now, kind of call it the microwave society, where people just want instant answers, right?
Yes.
No one really wants to take the time to dig into things and figure out how things work. Mm-hmm. And I'll just encourage people to take the time to study a little bit more, to be curious about things and pick up what they can do. I own 331 Consulting as a side business as well. We do a little agile leadership consulting there and some process improvement there. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me as well.
Wonderful.
And something I shared with someone earlier today, the progress in life doesn't come from big jumps. It comes from incremental steps. So just adding 0.1 to your speed on the treadmill gets you faster if you keep doing that. That's
huge. Like you just impacted me personally. Because for so many of us, we think if we're not making those big wins, we're just a total failure.
Right.
But you're so right.
Right.
The longest journey starts with the first
One step. Yep.
So thank you for reminding me and us of that very, very important point.
Not a problem.
Eb, you're cool, man. You're just cool. I'm so glad I got to hang out with you today.
I'm glad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And if I want to learn more about Agile, where would I go? What do I do?
Oh, if you want to learn, well, you could always Google it.
Well, yeah, but that's a rabbit hole.
The Google.
The Google, yeah.
Okay, you want to avoid the Google. If you want to learn about Agile, I would say you start off with the Agile Manifesto. So agilemanifesto.org, and that's where you can read about the Agile values and principles. And then after that, I'll go to the Agile Alliance page, and they've got some great resources and materials that anyone who's starting or wanting to just learn about Agile can look at.
See, I knew you would have the answers to those questions, so I'm glad I got to capture that on camera. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you.